Hello everyone, so today I will be doing a small tune-up on my Volvo 740 1986. If you saw my last video, you saw that I changed out the cap and distributor as part of just a regular tune-up, and this time I wanted to do part 2 of that tune-up, and that's to change out the ignition coil and the spark plug wires and the spark plugs themselves. If you look down there, you'll see a breather box. If you're new to Volvo, it's something you'll quickly learn you have to clean out. So I cleaned that out last time off camera, and I made sure that it was just nice and clean, basically. I didn't take out the breather box, but I went in there and I made sure the flame trap was obviously clean. You can see it, it's that shiny piece over there. Right there, that's the flame trap, and then below that you have the breather box, which is very hard to see, but it's basically on top there, and I just cleaned it out with a spray cleaner. By the way, a very good test to do is to get the engine warm, and then once the engine is warm, you open up this cap on top right here, and with the engine running in idle, put your palm over it. And that should create suction and pull. You should feel a little pull on your palm, and if that's the case, that means your breather box is you're not clogged up. But I would still do some maintenance and clean that out just in case. Okay, so for the next step, I have the new ignition coil, which this one is made in Brazil. The old one is, I believe, made in Germany, but it's still Bosch, and I don't know. This coil is probably good. The car drives fine, but this was only 24 bucks. So I thought, you know what, as part of my tune-up, and the fact that the car is hitting 30 years old, I think this might be something good to change up. So we are going to do that now. So here it is, just like before. I just put in the new one. I reconnected the same ends to the same spots that I took them off of, and the only thing that's missing is the connector to the old connector to the distribution. Okay, so here are the new wires. These are NGK wire set for the Volvo. Sorry, you'll see some of my blood there. But here's the number, and this is for the distributor. They recommend dielectric grease, but I use my contact cleaner because I trust it more. Now, when you take out the old wire that goes from the ignition coil to the distributor, you see there's a little clip. I don't know if you can see it. Let me try to point it out. The clip is right, this phone's having a hard time. There it is, this plastic little clip. I don't know why it's not focusing, because it's dark, I guess. Anyway, so when you put the new wire through, as such, you will have to go from the bottom, snake it this way. What's that red wire? Anyway, you sneak it this way. And by the way, these plugs are kind of nice, the NGK ones. The tips, just the quality of the material just feels so solid. And the this front part is made in Germany, and the rest of the cord is silicone and made in the USA. Here, I'm wiggling my finger. You can see it right here. Okay, all right, it's good, it's in. Now, the bottom of the distributor, you can't really see it. Got caught on something. So, it's hard to describe. You just have to kind of feel for it. I've installed this distributor, so I know where it is. And then you just have to press up really hard until you hear it snap. Don't worry, if it's installed improperly, you'll know, because the engine won't start. Okay, here's kind of the funny thing. So these are supposed to be arranged by length, right? So the wire that I just removed, that is my first cylinder on the Volvo 740, right? So that's the second one from the right here. And the funny thing is that these wires, the one that says 1, right here you can see 1, it is the short, it is the second most shortest wire. So there's no way it's gonna reach that hole. So I think that these numbers are actually improperly labeled, at least for my car. I mean, this might be maybe for another car. So these are iridium. Yeah, I know, I probably don't need such fancy spark plugs, but the difference is a couple of dollars. I figured I might as well put in the best. So I'm gonna put in the best. Oh, also I wanted to show you guys how. So these spark plug wires, they don't work with the, so they do work with a traditional wire, just like my old one. However, there's a little trick to getting into these. And the trick is quite simple. Because you see this one is just like my old one in terms of, and these are supposed to be pre-gapped. So I don't know why the camera is not focusing. These are supposed to be pre-gapped. But so you see it has the same tip as this one. However, to work in this wire, you need to unscrew this little tip. Simple enough, it's nothing complicated. That's because these wires, when you plug this in, it screws in almost. It's a very tight connection and a more secure one. So if something goes wrong, these, you know, this wire will never come off. Let's say you have a minor accident, you know, maybe one of these wires could come off. This one won't come off. All right, so now we just have to get this one out, and I just tighten these snugly. You can see right there, it's a good shot of it. I don't use torque specs. I know you're supposed to, but I just snug them in there because from what I've heard from several mechanics, you don't need to make them crazy tight. Just snug them. So, at least that's what I've been told. So that's how I'm gonna do it. And maybe you guys will let me know in the comments about all sorts of torque specs. A good tip I heard from Eric, the car guy, about putting in spark plug is get one of these spark plug removing wrenches that have a magnet. You see that little black circle in there? That's a magnet. So when you're putting the spark plug in, it doesn't fall and it doesn't mess up the gap of the spark plug. Of course, when you're putting it in, you could, in some cars, you, like in this one, you could, it's not so easy. Easier said than done with one hand. But you can basically sort of just put them in gently, very gently, and try to screw it in a little bit so that, you know, before you use the accessory, before you use that, just sort of snug them in there and then use that. So we're gonna repeat this process. I'm not gonna bore you to death. I'm just gonna do all the spark plugs. Okay, so what I did is I snugged them all in there with the wrench, just so they're snug. Also here, take a look at my old spark plugs and tell me what you guys think. Okay, everything was going smoothly until I hit a little hiccup as I was installing these wires, and I realized that the boot on these wires is too long. So let me clarify. What happened was that the store had sent me the wrong wires. I know this because the length of the spark plug wires did not match the cylinders. For example, the longest wire should have been my first cylinder. Instead, it was my third or fourth. And at this point, I realized that the spark plugs were too short for these wires, meaning that they didn't reach the plug inside the wire, which means that the boot wasn't securing to the spark plugs, something I later remedied. At this point, I just went home and cut the metal boot down, making it shorter so the spark plug would reach the plug inside of the boot, because I didn't feel like exchanging the wires. So by the time I did all 4 boots, it had gotten dark. And when I got back out of the car, I just snapped all of the wires in. Nothing complicated about that. And I started the car up, and what you see here is the result. Basically use a Dremel to cut down the boot to the right size. I don't know why it didn't fit properly, but we did it, and you know, I installed them. Nothing eventful happened off camera. Just did that, and that's it. So that's done. And now everything seems to be working. So the tune-up went successfully. The engine sounds pretty good to me. I don't hear any problems. Everything sounds pretty good.